I just started with an arbitrage property actually, where I master leased a short-term rental. And then I eventually bought some rentals afterwards. Once I got my proof of concept that I needed to know, okay, this could work for me too. And eventually I was able to match my income with building up my short-term rental portfolio. And then I was able to focus on other ventures within real estate.
Welcome to the Row Room Assisted Living Podcast with your hosts, Charlie Cameron and Alex Schlow. This is your go-to show for cutting-edge insights from industry leaders in residential assisted living.
Whether you're ready to launch your own assisted living business or looking to invest in this fast-growing, high-impact sector, we are here to equip you with the tools, strategies, and confidence you need to succeed. Get ready to ride the silver tsunami and change the future of senior care. Now on to today's show.
Welcome back to today's episode of the Row Room Assisted Living Podcast. I'm your host, Charlie Cameron, and today we are thrilled to have Stephanie Figueros on the call today. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thanks so much, Charlie, for having me. Super glad to be here.
Awesome. Could you give our listeners a brief introduction of you and where you're at right now in your entrepreneurial life status, and then we can jump back to how it all started?
Sure. So I'm based in Southern California. I'm a registered nurse by trade, turned into entrepreneur, small business owner, real estate investor. I started this journey about 4 years ago, going into it. And I was transitioning from working full-time as a nurse and slowly building up my skills on the entrepreneurial side with short-term rentals, got my real estate license because that was a logical thing to do, learned how to do negotiations and transactions with that, and did some fix and flips. And I also started a virtual assistant agency to help both myself and other business owners and real estate investors. And I have also residential assisted living facilities, 2 of them in Southern California. And I have all of those things still going on.
Yeah, the serial entrepreneur's typical story, doing all the things, which I love. I've definitely been there. I did a similar thing. While I was still in the military, I was investing in real estate, and I got my real estate license and started a team and did all that stuff on the side as well. I don't actively sell real estate locally anymore, but man, it was a big experience. I learned a ton, and it was super helpful, especially as a real estate investor first. You don't realize just how much work realtors do, good ones. You just think that they're like a Zillow replacement unit, and man, they do a lot more work than you realize. You don't know it till you get that license.
It's a ton of work and it's a grind, and I have mad respect for realtors. I had a season of my life where that was like my number one focus. And my gosh, it's not what people think it is. I will say that.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a grind, and it's cool. You can make a lot of money doing it, but man, it's work. Okay. How did you get started in real estate investing while you were an RN? Like, how did that come about?
So I went from the hospital setting. Case management was my background in utilization review, specialty that not many people even know what the heck that does. But what it allowed me to do was I was able to work from home for an insurance company for Cigna as a utilization review nurse. And so while I was doing something a lot less stressful, I had more time and energy to learn all things real estate. And I think that was really huge, because when you're in the hospital and it's like, would you have time for all this? I decided I'm going to do it a different way. So that's how it started for me. I just started with an arbitrage property actually, where I master leased a short-term rental. And then I eventually bought some rentals afterwards. Once I got my proof of concept that I needed to know, okay, this could work for me too. And eventually I was able to match my income with building up my short-term rental portfolio. And then I was able to focus on other ventures within real estate. So
wow.
And then I had no choice but to quit, because it was either I plateau or I keep burning the candle on both ends.
Yeah, 100%. I totally understand that. And are all those near Riverside, California, or where are those?
No, so most of them were out of state. So I'm California, Texas, Tennessee, and Florida. But I actually just sold my Texas property like early this week. So I guess I'll take Texas out of the loop.
Where in Florida and Tennessee?
So Orlando area, which is a tough area, but it is fun to visit. And then I'm also in the Smoky Mountains, which I absolutely love.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I started in short-term rentals in Orlando, and then I still own one in Nashville. I had a couple there at one point, and one in Colorado. Yeah, similar journey. It's interesting. You probably got into it the same time I did, and really for the cash flow. About How long was it when you started getting into real estate investing to equal your RN income and could exit?
It actually took me only 9 months to do
Holy
it.
smokes.
And I'm not joking. I'm still obsessed, but I was very obsessed. I had 4 properties, mix of arbitraging, owning, and joint venturing. That's why I was able to do that. I maxed out my DTI. I borrowed
Mhm.
against my 401k with my partner. Like we did everything we could. And the results, it came much faster than I anticipated. So I was like a machine. And now I've slowed down, which doesn't sound like I slowed down, but I feel like I've slowed down in some ways since then.
That's awesome. You'll have to forgive the lawn noise behind me here, but I wanted to ask on the short-term rentals. Why did you choose that asset class, and how did you get educated on it enough to jump in?
Honestly, I didn't have a mentor or anything. It was YouTube University, podcast, videos, and then just doing it. I just felt like I just have to know enough to get started. I'll figure it out. And then meet as many people as I could, which at the time, I could barely find anybody. I found like one person that was local to me that was doing it because my first one was local to me. So it was actually Facebook groups that helped a lot because that's how I met other investors and I found my neighbors actually out of state through Facebook groups. So, like actual neighbors. Oh, hey, my house is right next to your house. We should connect. But that's how it started for me. That's how I figured out about it. I just like vacationing. So for me, it just felt like the right one or asset class at the time to start with, just because I wanted, the desire was there. But I actually did get talked out of it. It was crazy because I did go to a meetup and someone was like, you shouldn't do it. And I believed them. And I was so agreeing that I'm like, okay, I guess this isn't a good idea. So I got shiny object syndrome, took my hand at try wholesaling, mobile home flipping, and went right back to short term rentals and said, I'm going to do it anyways. Other people are successful. Why can't I be? And I'm glad I stuck to that. I was stubborn enough to still do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Everything works, right? And not everything works for everybody. And everything works. And then you may decide that later you want a different strategy, right? You may decide, like me, that short-term rentals were giving you gray hair and you were ready to move on to something a little bit more fulfilling and more interesting, like residential care homes. So tell us now how you got into the 2 6-bed RCFEs you now own in Riverside, California. How did that come about? It's a pretty interesting story.
Yeah, so I have to say for years, so I bought them from my aunt. And before that, my parents actually used to own one of the facilities. And this was 20 plus years ago. And I was literally 10 years, like around 10 years old or so when they had it. And so was, I practically grew up, I was the entertainment for residents. And years later, or a couple of years ago, my parents were like, you should go, you should do it. And I was like, I don't think I want to do it. And the reason why was because I saw my parents do it at a young age, and they were juggling family, 2 full-time jobs outside of having the
Wow.
assisted living. And I just was like, I'm not sure. I'll stick with what I'm doing. Last summer, my aunt came back to me again and was like, hey, do you want to help me sell these? And I'm like, you know what? I'll buy them. And I didn't know what possessed me to do that. I just was like, I think I had a change of heart. And it took years for me to understand that because the way she was running it more like a business. And I saw how she didn't come from a nursing or healthcare background. And she's had it for 25 plus years. She had 2 of them, including the one that my parents bought. So now I basically bought it from her, and you could say it's stayed in the family, but it took a while for me to come around to it. And I think it was just a lot of personal development through the years and knowing that, okay, there's different ways you can operate these. And my parents' experience doesn't have to be my experience. I like how my aunt's running it. I think I'm going to run it like her. And my partner was super on board for it. So it was me that needed to be convinced to do it. And now it's okay, I'm all in. So
That's awesome. Okay. A lot of folks have difficulties with financing. Did you get some sort of creative financing because it was family? What did that look like?
So I'm very fortunate because at the time I was working on a fix and flip and I didn't know if I was going to keep the property or sell the property. We wanted to sell it, but we didn't know what to do with the money that we got. So we were setting it up like as if we were going to just keep it. And with that opportunity that came up with the 2 assisted livings, we were like, okay, we're selling it because we can use it for that. We have a seller carry arrangement with our seller. We didn't have to use any banks, and we basically just used the proceeds from our flip to be able to finance the business. And the crazy part was, because my parents helped her 20 plus years ago, she actually sold it to me on the same terms that my parents sold it to her with, knowing that she said, I don't really, not trying to make money. I just want to make sure this goes into the right person's hands. And I want to help you out because your folks helped me out back then. And I'm like,
It'd be hard to say no to that deal.
okay.
Instant hundreds of thousands in equity, right? Must
Yeah,
be.
and I'm just
Yeah.
like, that's nuts, but okay, sure, here we go. And I just had to become a sponge after that. And I find that a lot of, especially operators that have done this forever, they don't have the teaching gene. So you have to be an extra student or a student that knows how to ask questions to get the information that you need to be able to do this, because it's an interesting part learning it. I had to ask, or I still ask, a ton of questions with her. So I think that part has helped a lot with the success we've had so far.
Yeah, that's interesting about the teaching gene and not having it. That seems to happen a lot. And a lot of folks don't keep any good records and financials and stuff. It's really a lot of mom and pop, right, run homes. And so it can be hard sometimes to negotiate or even understand what the financials or the health of the home look like when talking to folks. So yeah, you have to know how to ask the right questions for sure. What a deal. That's an awesome deal. So for the listeners out there, you never know what's going to happen. So keep your eyes and ears and heart open to opportunities, because man, things can always come up, and you need to be, and entrepreneurs have a hard time saying no, and we need to say no more often. However, there are some opportunities that are fleeting that you need to pay attention for. And so it sounds like you took that opportunity and you're running with it. And tell us how it's going so far. I know the ownership's only been a couple months or so. How are things so far with operating the homes?
So I have to say, there was no ramp. I think and so these were fully functioning, fully staffed, full house, like 2 houses. So 12 souls plus staff, plus their families, that I walked into on day one, basically having to swim like crazy. And I will say, even though she has everything's for her, she knows everything. Me, I don't know everything. So it was a lot of learning and getting everyone to know and trust me, and then me understanding the day-to-day operations. I've been pretty heavily involved. I got my admin cert, and so did my partner. Eventually, we do want to outsource it, but being, I want to say, responsible business owners, I want to understand every single workings of this business. And that's just how I am with my other ventures too. I don't have to do that piece forever, but I want to know it like the back of my hand, so I know it's being done the way it's supposed to be. But it's been really good. Honestly, my partner and I pretty much fell in love with it. We love helping our seniors, and it's very fulfilling. And honestly, it gives us a satisfaction that, for me, that I used to have with nursing. And I think I lost that, and I got some of it back with guests, but not in the same way with seniors and the impact. So that part I really, and I will say the short-term rental side, I want to say, helped me more than the nursing in a lot of ways with the business operations, because we can handle remote management of a short-term rental with staff, with VAs, and also just the intricacies of markets and day-to-day turns and things that go wrong. There's a lot of good overlap if you approach it with the same attitude of hospitality with your residents and staff. So I thought that was a cool thing to see, the overlap. And I guess that gives me more of an edge than I thought. But so far, it's been good. It's not easy, but I think because I've been prepped with other things, I'm like, we can do this. We just have to take it day by day more than anything.
I love that comparison of STR, short-term rental hospitality and management from afar, to applying that operations piece to assisted living. I mean, I think that's really cool. And I think you're right. Like, operations are operations. Yes, care is different than hospitality. However, at the end of the day, it's a 24/7 business that you have to know all the ins and outs of, so that you can manage the staff and manage the managers and be able to operate that business well. And I think that's a great way to look at it. I started in multifamily, then I went to short-term rentals, and now assisted living. So I totally agree. What are there any other big takeaways or big surprises that kind of shocked you when you got into this assisted living business? Was there any aspects of it that you just weren't expecting at all?
It's gonna sound funny, but it's the truth. But I feel like I'm always spending money constantly. We're figuring out rules, but I'm like, I'm always buying something, whether it's groceries, whether it's something that needs to be fixed. So I'm always at the store. I'm always on Amazon. I guess I was expecting to be a lot more, I guess, at the houses, doing a lot more interactions, but I find myself, at least right now, or I was surprised of how much I'd have to go and shop. It's a weird thing to say, but
Interesting.
two houses with full houses, like there's a lot of things that get consumed. And
Yeah.
so that was just a surprise to me. It's like going almost with short-term rentals, you have that initial setup where it's like a really massive haul, but I find it's like a bunch of mini hauls, like a lot, all the time, all the time.
Nonstop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I hired a virtual assistant into my short-term rental business because I had at one point I think 7 or so that I managed from afar, and I was like, I can't do this by myself anymore, especially when the phone calls are coming in at 1 a.m. I'm locked out. So I hired a Philippine virtual assistant because her hours were opposite of mine, which was fantastic. And eventually I hired her full time. She works for me full time.
Hey there, sorry to interrupt this episode, but I've got a question for you. Do you want to share in the wealth and incredible returns from the highest demand asset class in real estate without the hassle of doing it all yourself, or at least not yet? Residential assisted living is booming and it's only gaining momentum. That's why we created an investment fund at Open Range Capital, so you can benefit without the heavy lifting. With the silver tsunami upon us, demand for assisted living is far outpacing supply, making this the can't miss opportunity for the next few decades. We provide access to fully vetted investment opportunities that are primed for success and ready to deliver strong passive returns. Don't wait, ride the wave with us. Visit theralroom.com/invest to partner with us on future investment opportunities. Again, that's theralroom.com/invest. We look forward to connecting with you. Now back to the episode.
Ever since, if I could clone her, I'd be a billionaire because she's the best VA ever.
You can
Yeah.
clone. You can clone. You just got to find the right.
I don't know. There's no one quite like her. She'll get a kick out of this when she edits this episode. And she started at Airbnb and now she edits podcast episodes. Just, man, yeah, virtual assistants are so capable. I guess we can make that segue. I guess other thing I want to ask about assisted living before we segue into virtual assistants, which I think is a cool topic to discuss on this podcast, but how do you plan to, or how have those homes been staying full in terms of residents?
So the beauty of having, or rather acquiring existing facilities, is the reputation's already there. So we kept the branding, the phone numbers, everything the same. And she made sure Spectrum gave us a big headache for it. Sorry, Spectrum. But it matters because we get phone calls just for people that have inquired years ago or people know of people. So lots of referrals. We actually have a wait list for one of our houses. They found us, they can see our house from their driveway and they're in a skilled nursing facility right now. So they didn't want to look anywhere. They just wanted to be with us because of our location, but they found us off of Google. Right now, it's mostly word of mouth. And that's just because she has built such a good reputation. And she's actually giving us more leads too, because sometimes she'll get personal calls. So that's how we've been staying full. Lots of word of mouth, existing families, vendors, hospice, home health, physicians. With my case management background, I have to say there is an advantage I have because I'm the person that people would have to market to in the hospital for placements. I've been also going out to the community, getting them to know who I am, but they know of the houses, which is great. It's been a combination of that, but it is something that you have to say top of mind so that they remember you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And being a case manager certainly is helpful for those that are getting into it that don't have that background. What's the best way for them to network with case managers or to find residents initially, do you think?
Great question. So honestly, I think the skilled nursing facilities are probably more where it's at. It's good to still keep your presence out in the hospitals, but most residents or patients when they go in, they don't already have that in mind that they're going to be not going home, I should say. It's building relationships and it's also adding a lot of value. Whenever I had somebody come up to me that I know that they wanted residents, they would always try to see, how can I help you with what is a problem or what's a pain point that I had. So if you don't have that, it's a matter of just trying to be of value to the person, and they will see that you're not just there to get something. You're there to also try to help. And it means a lot. That's what I would say if I was brand new, just, and then consistency of them seeing your face, because they see a lot of people. There's a lot of others that
Mm.
can easily get into the weeds. And if you come bearing gifts, which everyone loves, try to make it memorable. I had somebody that brought me Raising Cane's fried chicken.
Oh,
And I
my
thought
favorite.
I'm like, most people bring cookies and things like that, but they brought me chicken. And I don't
Yeah.
want to stop them. So be unique, stand out,
Yeah.
however way you need to. Now everyone's gonna you're gonna start hearing chicken going around. But people love that. And if you go during lunchtime and you feed them, they will definitely listen to anything you have to say because you're feeding them. So
I think maybe we'll title this episode "Win in Assisted Living with Fried Chicken" and just see how that goes.
yeah. I guess that tells you right there, food's the way to my heart.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, let's make a shift here and let's talk about virtual assistants. So, why did you start a agency on virtual assistants while you were building up your portfolio?
So it's been interesting because I think I manifested it. And I have an executive virtual assistant that I hired, and I didn't realize it, but she had an academy of Filipino virtual assistants. And she asked me a simple question of, Stephanie, do you know of anybody that might also need a virtual assistant? And I'm like, I know tons of people that would benefit, and they just haven't made the leap yet. So we basically joined forces as co-founders and created
Nice.
Bravo Virtual Assistants together. And she's still with me. And for me, I have my own personal VAs for my short-term rentals, my realtor side too. And currently right now, they're my executive assistants helping me on the assisted living side of things. That's how we got started. And we have over 100 VAs employed from the Philippines and over 70 clients in the US that have real estate, small businesses, all sorts. We even have a physician that we help with medical scribes. So
Wow.
you can get remote help in any aspect of your life. And that's what has helped me be able to actually pivot to this and not worry about my other things because I have virtual help.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow, 100 VAs across 70 clients. And it's an arbitrage of some sort. Is that kind of how that works?
So our model is your more standard virtual assistant agency. We're not a headhunter. We help manage the virtual assistant with you, and we provide in-house coaching for both the VAs and the client side. Because if you don't know how to be a good leader, you will make or break your VA success. A lot of people won't take ownership of that, or they don't think about it until enough mistakes happen. They're like, I think I'm the common denominator. So it's a learning curve. And I'm the person that's tell you, let's think about this. Is it really them, or did you not delegate this the way you should have to set them up for success? And it's always a work in progress with folks, but once you get it, it's magical. And you understand that.
That's absolutely needed. You're 1,000% right. And I made this mistake a bunch of times. I hired a VA and they didn't do what I needed them to do. And I hired a VA and they didn't do what I needed them to do. And I hired a VA and the story kept going over and over. I was like, wait a minute, maybe it's me. That's whatever that Taylor Swift song is. And I was like, what is the deal? And then a friend of mine was he's building a large multi-family repositioning style company, but they also do the management. And so he was building out VAs for that. He was like, hey, here's some of my SOPs. And I was like, oh, that's what I was doing wrong. I wasn't giving them the exact instructions for what they needed to know. I just expected them to somehow read my mind after one call. And so I think that most entrepreneurs just expect that to happen. And that's not really how that works. And if you're giving them tasks and it requires any level of creativity, they need to have some sort of pretty good training, usually a video and an SOP to go with it, to be able to understand exactly what the outcome needs to be. And over time, they'll get smarter and they'll anticipate what you need. Initially, you got to give them very specific instructions because they know nothing about your business. They know nothing about you. They know nothing about how squirrely and ridiculous and ADD you are, because that's how entrepreneurs are. And I've seen so many, not just me, but so many entrepreneurs just hire VA, expect the output to happen, but never give them the tools or the training they need to do it. And it's so essential. So make the training and then hire the VA.
Yes, you have to train, you have to invest in it. And a lot of people, there's two types of folks we see. They're so proactive, they do everything right. They're like, I want to make sure I do this the right way. And they take it slow. And then you have the people that, like me, I need to hire somebody yesterday. And whatever it takes. So we see those types, but the training is you have to. How else will they know? And you have to mold them too. And that's a good thing. And it's also knowing if you need a clone or if you need someone opposite of you. So really understanding what the role requires and the person you're speaking with. That we do personality tests for virtual assistants, DISC ones. And we always encourage our clients or prospective clients, you need to take this if you haven't already, because you might think you need a clone, but you really don't. You need someone that has a little bit of you, but really a different characteristic for this role and for yourself. It's time. It does take time. It's not a magic pill overnight, but it's worth it once you stick through it.
Yeah, and finding the right VAs for whatever your tasks are can be an interesting challenge. What have you found that has really worked to find the right person for the right job?
Honestly, I find it's mostly on the client if they can have crystal clear, be really clear on what it is you need for this role. Because a lot of people, it's okay to wing things. I'm that person too, but it's like being very honest with yourself. They think that we sometimes have to like really dissect what it is they need. And sometimes people aren't open. The more open you are, the better, because as much as special as everyone is, there is a pattern that we have to see with folks. And we can tell really fast who's going to be successful and who's going to have a hard time. It's knowing yourself, knowing the role, knowing how, like having a visual of how you're going to onboard them. And I like to say, build your curriculum for your virtual assistant. This is your person now. And it's on you to make sure they're successful. And if they're not, it's probably you more than it is them, because a skill can be taught. The one thing I'd say though is the attitude. I will take new people any day. I prefer, to be honest, almost with a few exceptions, a lot of my virtual assistants I trained from scratch, regardless of the experience they had, because it's no different than if in nursing, if you go from ICU to med surg or med surg to ICU, you got it. They train you. They pretend like you're almost a new grad in some ways. And a lot of people, they don't do that with their own business. So even if they have experience, and if you take it as like a fun thing, like you're providing opportunities for other people. And in the residential assisted living facility life, you have in-person staff. So you should already have an understanding of what that looks like. But there is a difference with virtual and in-person. But the training, for some reason, virtually, people just forget about, as if that doesn't have to happen. And it does.
It does. It does. I use Loom a lot for like training videos, and then I'll throw that into Notion or Slab for SOPs. What are your favorite tools for those kind of things?
So I use Loom as well. And the cool thing is you can do it once. And if you like for the short-term rental side, I have different VAs that have seen it from years ago. I now use just Zoom recordings instead, since I already have that. I do PowerPoints and record them. And for me, it's like market level, property level, guest level. This is just specific to short-term rental. You can use that with any business. Big context, and then we'll go into the nitty-gritty a little bit later. I also use YouTube videos from other people too. So I have a house in Tennessee that had a septic tank. I can't explain it other than you got to pump it every year at least. I leverage like courses even sometimes to train my VAs. But the cool thing with us at Bravo is now we have coaches in-house that can help train a virtual assistant on a skill. So like CRMs are a thing with sales and marketing. So if there's a certain HubSpot or Go High Level, we have coaches that have that expertise that can train a virtual assistant. If a certain client is, I'm switching to this tool, I don't have time to train them on this tool, do you have someone that can help them learn it and maybe teach me too while they're at it? You're basically hiring like a whole team. And I've leveraged this myself in-house, which has been really nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, it can get complicated. I love automation as well. Having people that understand those pieces and parts, whether that's within a CRM or it's Zapier or Make or any of those other ones. Yeah, it's good to have people who understand that. Not everything needs a VA if it can be automated, but you're always going to need a VA for a lot of tasks. So
there's always a human component that
always.
I have, but we love automations for everything. And it makes it also gives our VAs to have more efficiency with their time too, if they're not manually having to do certain things. So that it's always about freeing up your time. And I think
Yep.
one thing that I'm definitely looking for with our assisted living is how much can I optimize, systematize. Obviously, there's the care component, but right now my staff does such a good job on the caring aspect. I'm just trying to make everything else around it better so that they can really only have to focus on that job. It's cool to be behind the scenes on that and then switch back and forth, like having to be the people person, but also needing to be the back end person. Yeah, it's really a cool business too. I realize I love business. I'm like, man, if I knew better when I was a little bit younger, I would have at least had a minor in business, but I'm learning it now as I'm actually doing it.
Yeah, same. I was an engineer. I went in the Air Force. I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know anything about real estate till my late 20s is when I got started. And I was like, oh, wow. I wish I'd known anything about this 2 decades ago when I was a child swinging on the swings instead of buying land like an idiot. You know, have you seen those memes?
Oh yeah, I think everyone wishes they started a little bit younger,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
do feel the life experience, I feel like, especially with the people aspect, because everything is people driven. If you can understand human nature, you will be fine with everything
Yeah.
else. You can always outsource the technical stuff. I think that's why I feel like I've had such a good experience with my virtual assistants, is because I'm always thinking about how they are. We use like an inverse pyramid business model for our agency. And think of it like an upside down triangle or pyramid. I mean, you can Google this too, but basically, who is the most important person in your business, whatever that is? And for us, it's actually not the clients, as we don't want to hurt feelings, but it's actually the virtual assistant. And if clients understand that your team member, you should be focusing on them more than anybody, the results that they'll produce is a cascade effect. Everything else will be perfectly fine if you can just make sure that they feel supported and are happy. And I always make a point to understand that and see that and get that out of my team members to see how they're doing. And then, because otherwise they get burnt out, tired, and then that's when you start to see gaps happen in their work. It's helpful for us, but everyone's different, because at the end of the day, you are managing your own VA for your business. And that's where the leadership training that people don't think about when they start with virtual assistants, like they'll think, oh, maybe I really should think about reflect more. And I'm constantly reflecting on myself on, am I doing what I need to be doing to help them be successful? And I'm constantly thinking that for my in-person staff, my virtual staff. And I'm like, I think I might have leveled up, because that's a good problem to have.
Yeah. I want to riff on that a little bit. Have you ever read Free to Focus? Have you heard of
No,
it?
but I've probably read a bunch of other books.
Probably similar. You've probably done this exercise, but in Free to Focus, they have this freedom compass, I think is what it's called. And it's basically this circle, and there's 4 quadrants. It's split up into 4. And there's basically 4 sections. You take every task you do on a daily basis or throughout the week, and you throw them on there into these 4 sections. And so the sections are, you're both passionate about a task and you're proficient at it. You're passionate about it, but you suck at it. You're not proficient. You are not passionate about it, but you're good at it. And you're not passionate and you're not proficient. And I see so many entrepreneurs make this mistake of just doing all the things. And they get so stuck in those tasks that they hate doing, that whole half of the circle, that they don't have the energy left to do the things that they're really passionate about that would push their business forward. And so when you're talking about a VA and how they're the most important person, I want people to think about it that way, because if you put someone in your business that's now handling the tasks that they're better than you at things, because guess what? Virtual assistants are going to be better than you at 90% of things. You hire someone that can do that job better than you and is more passionate about it than you, so that it's off your plate. Now you can spend all of your time on those passion things, and your business will grow so much faster and pay for that VA and many more, because you're focused on the things that light you up and just continue to ignite that entrepreneur fire. I don't know. I'm very passionate about getting those tasks you hate off your plate.
Same.
Yeah. Anything to add to that before I got another question for you?
I always say people think virtual assistants just help you with your business, but they help you with your relationships, quite frankly, with your own mental state.
Yeah.
Like, they can do more than just your business. Like my executive VA, I love her dearly. She planned out my vacation for me when I went out of the country to the Philippines.
Hell yeah.
Actually, I'm Filipino, but I'm born and raised here in the States. And so I needed some help because I didn't know anything. But just And then she's helped me with just things in my personal life. And I try to mix fun tasks that I know she'll enjoy doing. And it's also knowing your person. Like one thing I think people also make the mistake of is they end up subconsciously making their VA just like them in the worst parts, meaning the last thing I'll ever have some of my short-term rental VAs do is I will never make them cold call. They did not sign up to be a cold caller, but I know of other people who try to make them do these new tasks, these new skills, and they get unhappy and they get very resentful. And so it's better to compartmentalize, and that's how they become better. You're either leveraging timer expertise, and you don't have to have all full timers. You can have one person dedicated to this role, another dedication to just this. Now, if they want the ability to learn new skills, one of my VAs right now on my short-term rental side, our goal this year is to push our social media more. But she's not a social media VA. But I asked her, do you enjoy making posts? Do you have your own Instagram? And do you want to learn this skill? And she's, yeah, I want to learn it. So we're sending her to be trained to learn this from another VA. But if she told me right then and there, I'm not very creative and I'm not sure if I would do a good job, then I wouldn't push it. And it's because I remember I got voluntold to transfer departments when I worked at home and I hated it. I was so mad because they didn't ask me. They just simply said, you're doing this now. And I'm like, but when I first came here, I was going to do this. That's what I signed up for. So it's just thinking in their shoes is really all it is.
You make such a good point. Yeah, I'm going to take the action to just check on my favorite VA and see how she's doing and if she's happy with all the tasks. Yeah, and it's cool. They grow with you and they learn and I don't know, they're just an integral part of the team. I don't think of my VA like a stranger. We share family pictures. We ask how everything's going, and you could just build relationships with these people. And it's so cool to help them succeed in their lives too at the same time. I just love that. She'll send, hey, I was able to buy a new car. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah, let's go. And I just get so excited for their success too, and them learning and doing more. Okay, one more question. We ended up talking a lot more about this. I love it. Okay, what do clients come to you thinking they need a VA for most? And is that the same as what they actually need a VA for most? You see what I'm asking?
Yeah. So I always find they think that they can't do something. And so it's more of they limit them right off the bat. Oh, I probably only need a VA for this. So I don't need somebody full time. I just need this one task. And I'm like, there's more. What else? Just tell me more about what it is that you do. And I'll just use short-term rental as a good example, since we're both familiar with that too. Then it's a little easier to visualize. They're like, oh, I just want them to be on call for guests on Airbnb, nothing else. And I'm like, okay, do you need help with talking to vendors, getting bids, ordering resupplies? Oh, I don't think they can do that. And I'm like, yeah, they can. Yeah, they can. So it's more of opening their horizons so that they think is a small sliver of the big pie, when it's like they can honestly run your whole operations if
Seriously.
you let them and allow them to.
100%.
So it's almost set your person free, take the limiters off, and see what they can do. I always challenge my VAs to come up with ideas. And it's a good stimulation because people get bored. You don't want your people to get bored. Now, you don't want them to think it's something that's impossible, but they want to feel a sense of growth too. And the cognizance of knowing that I push my team. I'm like, I know that you can do this. It's a lot of reassurance in the beginning. And I think though, when you're brand new to it, you need the reassurance more than they do. And they don't want to step on your toes because they're waiting for you to tell them what it is that you need help with. They think they need this, but they might think they only need this, but what they really need is like a number two, someone to really allow them to be close. It's weird that even though this is virtual, people get very guarded because they have trust issues. It's like dating. You don't have to give them everything all at once, and I don't recommend it, but being that open-mindedness of what else could work. We always tell people, if the benefit is that you're not the first person we've talked to with this issue or mindset, like there's more to the solution. You just have to be willing to open your mind to it and then allow it to happen. A lot of people shoot themselves in the foot and they wonder why, or wonder what happened.
That's so good. Yeah, they want growth too. And you have to be willing to trust people. And I know it sounds crazy because you're taking a chance on a person in an entirely different company or country far away that you've never met, but they're just as capable. They're just as trustworthy, if not more trustworthy, is something that I found, and more faithful and loyal, which is pretty cool. I want to tell a quick story and then we can wrap it up. When I hired my current full-time VA, she had been working for me part-time, managing short-term rentals, kind of all those things you mentioned, and guest management and ordering supplies, doing all the things. And she was just working part-time for me and part-time for another company. And all of a sudden she disappeared. I didn't hear from her. And a month later, she shot me a text and was like, "Hey, I'm sorry I was off the grid. That a typhoon came through and we had to move islands and find a new place for my family to live and a place with internet. And it's been absolutely crazy." I was like, "Wow, I'm just glad you guys are okay." And she was like, "Hey, I hate to do this. I asked my current company, her more full-time company. She was like, I asked for an advance on my paycheck to buy food and stuff for my family. And they said no." And she was like, "I was wondering if you would be willing to advance $300 and I'll work it all off and all of that." And I was like, and we'd only been working together for 4 or 5 months. And I was like, "Oh man, is this a scam? What's happening here?" Then I thought about it. I was like, man, I've wasted $300 on so many worse things than potentially helping some woman feed her family. And another, I was like, yeah, okay. I took about 10 seconds to think about it. And I sent her the money. And sure enough, she worked it all off. That company eventually basically went under, folded. And then I was like, "You're going to work for me full time. I don't have all the tasks for you yet, but I'm going to give you tasks." And yeah, it's been fantastic ever since. But I just love that story so much because it really brought us together and, I don't know, built a level of trust that I don't have with a lot of humans.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
yeah, that I do find there's things that happen. So never assume. People think worse things, like their minds go down this rabbit hole, and it's ask before. There's this book called The 4 Agreements, and one of them is never to assume. And I take this with me everywhere. So even if I have even a small bias, I will still ask the questions. And I like to be pleasantly surprised when I'm like, "That's not what I thought it was. Glad I asked." But yeah, I like also your mindset of, okay, it's not a big amount in the big scheme of things for you, but for her to make the biggest impact, why not just do it, take the chance and see what happens? And if anything, you took care of her. And that's the thing, like if you take care of your people, your virtual assistants, your in-person staff, the loyalty they will have towards you. And I see this a lot with virtual assistants, especially those from the Philippines. It's in our culture. We're very nurturing, very loving, very faithful, very loyal people. Now, everyone's always like that. We're humans.
Sure.
Attrition is a big part of virtual assistants and finding the right fit. Like I've had people that I've had to let go just because they weren't a good fit, but they might be good for somebody else. But so don't give up. You will find the right attitude, the right fit, and then you got to hold on to them and mold them and just let them become part of your family. And that's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So Stephanie, let's say someone wants to hire a virtual assistant, and after listening to this, I sure as heck hope they do, because if they don't have one now, they need one. What's the best way to get a hold of you if they want to just learn about you or connect with you or work with your virtual assistant company?
Yeah. So you can find me on IG, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. It's just my name at Stephanie Figueros is my handle. BravoVirtualAssistants.com is our website for the agency side. I can just add for those that are in the residential assisted living space. You can honestly get an executive assistant and you can mold them with different parts of your business. I'm already doing this with my own VA and building out what that looks like. You'll be surprised of the different remote parts, whether that's bookkeeping, payroll, social media management, just to get something off of your plate to help so that you can focus on whatever it is you want to in your business. Yeah, that's how we're not hard to find. I'm not hard to find too. So that's it.
Awesome. Book a call with Stephanie. Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on today. This was absolutely amazing. We had a great time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the Raw Room Assisted Living Podcast. We hope you found today's episode insightful. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a raving 5-star review. And a quick review helps more listeners find the show and more seniors get the exceptional care they deserve.
And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And just so you know, we have prepared some free resources for you to help you succeed in residential assisted living in addition to this podcast. Head over to theralroom.com, that is theralroom.com, to download our free 10-step guide to launch your first or next residential assisted living home, or our 10 reasons to passively invest in residential assisted living ebooks.
And if you're ready to take the next step and make real moves in the RAL industry, join us in the RAL Room Mastermind. It is an exclusive community where we deep dive into everything you need to launch and grow your own residential assisted living business. You'll get access to recorded courses, live calls with industry experts, a RAL calculator, resources and tools, like-minded entrepreneurs, funding opportunities, and an expert networking community to help you along your journey.
Be sure to join us next time on the RAL Room podcast as we continue to explore the world of residential assisted living with more great guests. See you then.